Hey everyone, so after 5 failed attempts and countless hours trying to make this video tutorial for you, I think I'm finally cracking the code on how to build robust directories using AI tools. In this video, I'm about to show you exactly how to vibe code the perfect website using Node.js and Astro for your next build, even if you've never coded before. Astro makes its pages static site generated, which means it's super fast and great for SEO. We'll start by creating a bulletproof PRD using 3 different LLMs to maximize perspective and make sure we don't miss anything. Next, we'll generate the codebase using Bolt.new. Then we'll create a new GitHub repo so we can bring the project to our computer and work on it locally. And finally, we'll deploy everything to Netlify for easy hosting and automated updates. I don't know how many other tutorials are out there for this kind of thing, that they probably make it look easy, but the reality is it can be a nightmare. This video will save you time and headaches for building the actual website part. I'm assuming you already have your data scraped, enhanced, whatever, and you're ready to start building the actual site. We're starting simple. No authentication, no admin dashboards, nothing like that yet, because the most important part of vibe code builds is to make sure you're focusing on one feature at a time, and in this case, we want to just get our minimum viable product out the door, which means we have to make sure it looks more or less the way we want, using the front-end framework we want, Astro, and it successfully deploys to Netlify, which can be harder than you think using Astro. So let's dive in. Okay, so our first step here is to open up Claude or ChatGPT or both. I'm going to be using both because we want to see the different approaches to creating this PRD. Now the prompt here is we want to create a PRD. We're going to explain everything as well as possible. We want to create an interface for our directory using Astro, so it is not client-side rendered. We should be heavily search engine optimized. We want to use a hybrid SSG and SSR approach, which is static site generation or server-side rendering approach. So it's better for SEO. We want to consider implementing client-side caching strategies and lazy loading for interactive components. But back here where we're doing directory pages, category tag browsing pages, like the main pages, we want that to be static, which means the page is already made and the server doesn't have to communicate with the browser to like display any information. But backend functionality is going to be a little different because it's not SEO material, so that'll be server-side rendered. Consider implementing client-side caching strategies. This will all just to make it faster. Now, right here in the prompt, you might want to insert your SEO metadata strategy, such as the main keyword. The main SEO keyword is, what are we doing here? How to learn about AI. And you can get as deep as you want into that, but I'm planning on just refining it later after we have the main build. It will be deployed on Netlify, but I want to use minimal, if any, Netlify functions, okay? Because that can add up if you're using lots of Netlify functions. So we just want to make sure in the prompt that it doesn't make that mistake. I'm not using a map, but if you're using a map, you want to specify here what gembed you're using, and you want to make sure it's minimizing API calls. So for example, here on my Montessori find, we have a map, but the API is only called to load it if the user clicks that. And then boom, there we have it. So there's a lot of things you can do to minimize that. We can do that later on, but the more we can do in the prompt here, the better. I'm not using a map, so I'm going to delete that part of this prompt. I also want an administration backend that's linked directly to the database so I can modify or add new records directly from my browser. I am the only administrator account and can log in from a password set in a .m file. Now, if you want to add multiple users, be my guest. It's going to add some complexity to your Supabase database and other things. Now, there's 2 options here for the data. Either you have JSON files or you have your data on Supabase already, which you could write a script to do on Cursor. Not very difficult, or you could import it into Supabase as a CSV file, but you're going to want to specify here what your data is like. So in my case, the resources data is already in Supabase, attached as a CSV export of the schema. Otherwise, if you're using a JSON file for your database, and you want to then, otherwise, if you have a JSON file, attach the sample, and depending on your goals, JSON file could be fine. You might want to use Supabase. But here we want to say users to the site should also be able to request modifications to listings or submit new listings. They should not need to log in, but they should provide a name and email, an X account maybe. This is going to depend on your demographic, your niche, and what they want. Once again, the more complicated you get, the more work you're going to have cut out for you, making sure the whole login system works. Finally, attached is a screenshot of a front-end design I like. Let's try to keep a design like that, but be creative, enhancing its aesthetic appeal. It should be designed mobile first. So there I go. I've got all that in there, and I'm going to submit it to Claude to make our PRD, product requirements document. Meanwhile, on ChatGPT, I'm going to paste that same thing. All right, and we'll submit that. All right, so first let's check out what Claude made. Product requirements document, 5 builders, AI learning directory, product overview. Here real quick, here in the prompt, I said I attached part of the database. I didn't do that in here because we don't need to, but make sure we do that later. So Claude has made our PRD. Just gonna run through it real quick, and it looks pretty good. And most importantly, for our purposes, it knows the framework and rendering strategy using Astro, hybrid SSG and SSR, SEO implementation, great. Database and backend, existing Supabase, admin authentication is password-based and .env. Now this is just what I want to do. You might want to implement like an email admin thing. User submissions, no login required, but name and email collection. Performance, good. Okay, so it's got everything here. It looks like it's even doing some code here. Wow, it's actually coding the whole thing. I just need a PRD. Okay, so now let's go back to ChatGPT, which I'm not often as big of a fan about. AI learning directory, Astro plus Supabase. There's the overview, goals. I like how it does the goals. Rank for how to learn about AI. Use Astro to deliver a performant SEO optimized front end. Yes. Support both content, allow public submissions and corrections without user accounts, provide a private admin dashboard for content control. Very good. Now the next question we ask before we finalize this PRD, brainstorm 3 to 5 potential security vulnerabilities or setbacks to this build. And then let's see what Claude says. Unprotected admin access. All right, so mitigation required 2FA or Netlify identity. In both these cases, they're saying the same thing. XSS vulnerabilities, proper input sanitization is necessary, so we're going to add that. That's what it says here. CSRF protection we need. Now, this also says the same thing. We don't want that admin authentication weaknesses. Okay, so there you go. I'm not going to cut that from the video and pretend I need that already, because what I really want to show you in these videos is how to learn how to do this on your own, how to prompt as many things as possible, so by the time you're ready to create your final product, as much as possible is accounted for. And if you miss something, well, that's how we learn. Sometimes we have to learn things the hard way. Let's address the most critical vulnerabilities here. So, given all that, I say let's address this all and adjust our PRD accordingly with the best solutions. So let's say that here. So this is mentioning Supabase row level security configuration. Let's address the most critical vulnerabilities and adjust our PRD accordingly. Okay, so now we got an updated PRD. Okay, great. Now, how much are we all going to know about this? Well, if you really want to learn while you build, Google each and everything, or even better, just copy that into Claude and ask, hey, what is this? And then it'll tell me exactly what that is. Powerful security feature. Okay, so finally, to wrap this up, for sake of our tutorial, format this PRD as a markdown file I can download. And let's see, Claude ChatGPT updated our PRD with security enhancements. Okay, old, single admin. So that was just a bad idea. And I've never even done that. I just thought maybe that would be simpler because I've had headaches adding in administration authentication stuff. But okay, I'm going to say format as markdown so I can download. Okay, so now we have 2 different PRDs. Now I'm going to go to Grok and I'm going to say, compare these 2 PRD files. They are for the same project. Which one is better? Would you make any improvements? So we're going through 3 LLMs here, 3 corporate LLMs, which are smarter than the open source ones. And we're going to see what Grok says. And hopefully now we'll have a good perspective on the best way to go about this. It looks like the ChatGPT one is the winner according to Grok because it avoids redundancy and easier to navigate for developers focused on implementation. But we're not working with developers and stakeholders, right? So this is structure and clarity. Our Claude PRD has a more detailed and verbose explanation of the technical structure. It's got all this stuff: key value proposition, target audience, page rendering strategy, depth and comprehensiveness. Claude wins. Technical details, ChatGPT wins. SEO and performance focus, that's a tie. User and admin features, Claude wins. Wow, I really love how it did this. It's a really good analysis. So I'll say, based on your analysis, can you please mix these 2 PRDs into a new one with the best and most important of both worlds? And AI Copilot will be building this. So the more details, the better. So it's getting pretty specific here. I like how these optional features are listed because then that'll share with Bolt or Lovable or V0 where we might go with this. Gonna use Astro with TypeScript. Good. All right, so this is very thorough. So I've copy and pasted everything here into just a text file. Now I mentioned earlier we're just making an MVP here with base functionality, and you're probably noticing, wait a minute, this PRD has everything in there. That's good practice. Make a very thorough PRD so we can understand where we're going, so the software can be correct, especially in the beginning. If later we want to do XYZ, we want to make sure we do ABC today. That's good practice. But the reality is, if you want to be practical, we can't have all that functionality in our MVP. We're going to have issues deploying on Netlify. Believe me, I tried 5 times before this video and I couldn't do it. So we are now going to eliminate the complexities from this PRD to move forward. But don't be upset and think you've wasted time because we're still going to use that PRD later. I took that PRD and I put it into Claude and I just said, remove some of the stuff we don't need, like complex authentication, multi-factor authentication, the admin interface, submission forms. Like, we just want to build an MVP first. One of the things I've learned, literally, I love you guys because I've worked on this already. This is my 5th time in a few weeks trying to make this video tutorial because there's so many different ways to go about plugging your data that you've scraped and refined and enhanced into a front end. There's so many different ways, in fact, that if you don't keep in mind that the LLMs and these AI copilot tools, they do things a certain way. And no amount of prompting that I've been able to find was able to connect a front end that I built with screenshots to a Supabase database that already had everything. So originally, when I first made this, I had a Supabase database with everything in there, all the images, everything ready to go. And I shared the schema, I shared exports with Bolt, with V0, and it just couldn't figure it out. So in this build, my 5th or even 6th time trying, I'm simplifying my PRD, and we're going to use Bolt. We got to use Astro. V0 is not great with Astro. I don't know about Lovable yet. I don't know about Replit, but oh boy, I don't recommend trying to build anything Astro on V0. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Point in case is that this is not super easy and you're going to run into problems. Even what I am about to show you, you might have problems when you try and be like, Jordan, what the hell? But honestly, these LLMs, these services have moods. Like even on Cursor, right? If I open up this Discord agent bot I'm working on, right? I can choose what model I'm using, but at different times of the day, Claude 3.7 Sonnet Max responds differently. Or the chat context resets without telling you, and you're like kind of starting over, kind of not. This stuff is all just so sensitive, but it's possible. Now, we're going to build with Astro here. But I just want to tell you that you might not have good results with Astro. Astro does static site generation, which is the best. It's fastest. It's the least server load. There's no extra JavaScript code loading the code. Whereas with server-side rendering, the server still has to render the page when it's requested. So there's just like so many things to consider that you're going to learn project by project. So the last thing I want to say, I apologize I'm rambling, but this is a big part of the vibe coding philosophy that I'm just starting to adopt for myself that I don't know if anyone's talked about before, but be prepared to start over, be prepared to make mistakes, and know that as long as you get it built in the beginning, you can always enhance it later, especially as these tools get better. So get your MVP made. Just get your MVP done. We don't need to be perfect. We need to just build and deploy and ship, as they say. So here we go. Let's get started. I'm actually going to go to VO and get my original prompt from earlier because it was a good prompt and I know what I needed to do to fix it. And you're going to get a sneak peek here of all the stuff I built that is getting cut from this video. All right, so here's the prompt. And I say, let's build this directory. Follow the styles from the attached screenshots and the data from the sample JSONs attached. Ensure the vibe score is displayed in resources. Check the sample data and note that each platform has different data structure. Use placeholder images for resources for now. Okay, so here we have our PRD that we already made, but I just removed all the complexity stuff. No emails, no logins. We'll do that in another video. So a key point in this PRD is we're building with Astro, SSG, and Supabase. Okay, say Astro framework, SSG. When I did this on V0, it straight up ignored that I said build an Astro. And it just used TypeScript. And then when I finally deployed it, it was client-side rendered. And I was like, what the actual F, V0? So I'm trying Bolt here. And I know they say down here start a blog with Astro. So I'm assuming they're going to do Astro better. Okay, let's build this directory. I'm going to say it again with Astro. SEO optimized. Yeah. I got a logo here, the human vibe score, the LLM vibe score, and another one of these videos I did, I explained how I generated all the images and everything, but it got lost in the madness. I apologize. In one of these video versions that is not this video, I built this all with Cursor and had good results. However, by the very end, because of Astro, I had way too many problems deploying it on Netlify, and I pretty much gave up because I went in circles. I had everything working, and then it wouldn't deploy on Netlify, so it like chopped everything down, and then it was just a disaster. So in this video, I've learned enough to show you that once we make even like pre-MVP, we're just going to make sure it's using Astro. It's got our data in there. Hopefully we can even integrate Supabase here on Bolt, which would be awesome. Might not work. We'll deploy it on Netlify, which Bolt also does. And if we can get all that working for the pre-MVP, then we can bring it to Cursor, no problem, and make our final tweaks. But what I'm just noticing from all the times I've tried to do this now, it's the more complexities you have going on before you sync up the core code with your deployment service, the less of a chance it's going to work. So don't make the same mistake I did 5 times, okay? Yeah! So Bolt made it, but of course we got some issues here that's not even noticing. Copy and paste that there. Astro really is different territory, everyone. I don't want you to be discouraged. Okay, it's working. I take that back. So we pretty much have need some work cleaning up, but it's pretty thorough, huh? So now I'm gonna give it that screenshot. Follow this design for the header. Now I've noticed with Bolt, you can't upload images, so we're gonna do all that with Cursor later. But this is my favorite part, just uploading screenshots saying, hey, add that. Now I have a bunch of tokens on Bolt, so I'm just kind of wasting them. I would normally do this on Cursor later, but we're here. So we've got our basic MVP. It obviously, oh no, it did get our resources. That's cool. Yeah, it got our resources. Did it make the resource page? Let's just say that last thing, make the resource page. And there's all sorts of things you're going to want to do here, like make sure the URL slugs are good for SEO. Not the focus of this video, but as you learn Cursor, which we'll briefly introduce to at the end, and all my other channels use Cursor, so you just got to watch some of my videos and you'll learn Cursor. But once you get comfortable with Cursor, you can just do everything there. But do that after you get this initial MVP deployed, which is what we're doing here. Just a minute. We go to resources or categories, browse category. Category pages aren't done. Let's add that. All right, so let's see categories. Great. AI tools. Nope. So that'll fix that there. That is one thing that's cool about these interfaces. It'll say just like click here to fix. In Cursor, you're going to have to copy and paste the error over unless it's working automatically, in which case it's a way better tool than these because it'll just fix it on its own. You'll get up to 25 tool calls per like run before you have to click like continue. It'll just do it on its own. All right, categories, machine learning. Are you getting bored yet? Yeah, exactly. This is how it goes. A lot of, click this, fix this, fix this, fix it. This is how it goes. This is what vibe coding is. It's kind of soul-sucking in a lot of ways. I'm not going to talk about in this video. If you want to hear a video about that, you can leave a comment because I do have a lot to say on this kind of philosophy of vibe coding and how we can remain human in the process and kind of close that feedback loop of dopamine, because as humans, we need to like create. Anyway, let's get back to the video. So things are moving. And we're ready to take this to the next stage. So I'm going to go here to integrations, and I'm going to add it to a GitHub repo. And we're going to call it Vibe Builders AI version 2. All right. So changes you make in Bolt will automatically be committed to GitHub, which means anything that happens in the GitHub will also be reflected in Bolt. This is the whole point of GitHub. If we click that GitHub here, we click go to repository, you will now see everything going on. It's Astro, there's the README, and we've got our whole little site here, okay? From here, I can copy this, either HTTPS or SSH, or just download the zip, but I'm just gonna copy that. And I click clone from GitHub. You put that address in there, and then you open it up. And now we have the same thing here in Cursor that we have on GitHub, that we have on Bolt. If we go to the code here. We're not going to use Cursor yet. We're going to work on deploying it. But what's important here is to know that we now have a GitHub repo. So when changes are made on Bolt or on Cursor, and we push them, which we'll do in just a minute here, they will show up here as updates on GitHub. Now what we want to do is connect this to a Netlify deployment. So when you make a change on Bolt or on Cursor, it'll automatically update your live website. So how do we do that? Well, fortunately, Bolt makes it pretty easy. We'll click deploy. It works with Netlify by default. It's not like V0 that works with Vercel. So there's a build fail. So hopefully Bolt will be able to do this on its own. If not, we have a serious problem because I'm not going to bring it to Cursor if it won't build. I noticed this happens a lot with Astro, okay? Astro is a headache right now if you're using no-code AI copilots. I'll need more information. Please let me know which deployment. Netlify deployments. And this is where I think I went wrong yesterday. We weren't using that Netlify adapter, so let's see if they can fix it. All right, looks like it's building. That's good. It worked. We did it. And that didn't even take that long. Wow. All right, so now my official recommendation is use Bolt to deploy a directory. That's it. You've seen it here. Let's click that. Page not found. All right, we're going to have to diagnose that. Let's go over to Netlify here and let's see our sites. It's probably this one because I've never seen that before. Frolicking Crostata. Let's change the name. Vibe Builders AI. All right, so obviously something's wrong there. Something weird happened, and while it did technically deploy it, that's not the site. Obviously nothing's here. And when I go to that site, I renamed it to Vibe Builders AI, there's no actual repository linked. So I'm going to link our repository. Now, this is really something Bolt should be doing automatically. I don't know why it didn't do that, but whatever. We will need to add environmental variables eventually, but we don't have to worry about it right now. Deploy Vibe Builders AI. So now it's building, okay? It's taking all this code that we deployed from Bolt, we sent it to GitHub. It's now building that here. But what we're gonna do now is check out here. 7 minutes ago now was when we brought the Bolt project to GitHub. I'm gonna refresh it, and we'll see 1 minute ago there was a new commit, which means all those changes that Bolt was doing to fix the build process happened here in these two folders. It looks like, yeah, there was some more 4 minutes ago. Anyway, remember when we put the site here on our computer, and this is the same page, the README, but remember we have Cursor open, but we don't have those changes that Bolt made. So what I do now is I say git pull. And what that's gonna do is pull by fast forwarding on the, basically like the chain of changes going on. It brought in all this code and I have it now. Then we do npm run dev. And now we can click this link, localhost 4321, and here we are. I want to add a background image here, for example. So if I go find the public folder, the only icon here is a fave icon, which I think is that. There's no images or anything. I don't even know, yeah, these don't even really work, and that's probably pulling from YouTube. It is, because it's a thumbnail. So here in the public folder, I'm going to make a new folder called images. And in images, I'm going to upload my different logo icons. This is the logo, that's the vibe score, that's the LLM score. And that's actually, there's a placeholder image here. And there's one more image I want to put as like a background, BG compressed. So now, here in Cursor, if you've never used it, all my videos have some bit of Cursor in it, so you can go learn about it more. But we've got our local thing running here. I've added all these images, and I want to, for example, change the background image of the hero. So here in the agent, you can open it with these panes here. I'm going to say I want to use public images bg compressed.jpg as the background of the hero section. And I think it's not actually in there. It is. Okay. And now I'm just going to put one thing at a time. Sometimes with design features, you can put one thing. But this is also the same route to adding more functionality once our MVP is ready. So for now, I'm going to tell it to change that image. And down here, you can see I can choose which model. I generally use Claude 3.7 for everything because it's not as annoying as Gemini and ChatGPT. And I think it does better work. Gemini 2.5 Pro does compare, but I think it's kind of annoying. So I like Claude Sonnet a lot, but there's a lot of options here. You can mess around with them. Some of them cost more than others. But here we go. You see it modified the hero.astro component. Over here in the folder, you can see there's public assets, which are mainly just images, and then the source components, all the code and things in the background that the project uses to create a website that you see on the browser, basically create static HTML pages. So it's still working. It's going to change the CSS, but you can see now I put that image back there. Pretty neat, right? So for my next prompt, as soon as that's done, I'm going to say now use public/images/logo.png as the main site logo. Okay, so it's done with that now. I'm going to send this one, use main site logo icon. I'll even probably say like make that a gradient, but this is how I go through and I change every little thing. Great, so now we got the logo there. Cool, right? And now it's going to change the footer logo. Oh, and it's updating the fave icon too. Great. Yeah, Claude makes a lot of assumptions that I like, whereas a lot of times ChatGPT and Gemini, they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Would you like me to do this for you? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I want you to do it for me. That's why you're here. Like, don't make me tell you to do it. So it uploaded the logos. Now what I'm going to show you is I'm going to make a new terminal here, and I'm going to stage all the changes, make a new commit, and push them to GitHub, okay? So as you can see, it's been 13 minutes since our first commit, 10 minutes in some other ones, and here in public was 13 minutes ago. That's about to change because we added a bunch of images and image code. So I'm going to say git add dot. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the command line, go to the links below. You can get a primer on how the command line works. Get comfortable with it, because if you want to really build with AI, you're going to need to learn this stuff, especially Git. Git add dot. That means stage everything. Every file in this folder, if there's a change, assume it's going to be sent to GitHub to update everything else. That's what git add dot does. Then I say git commit, flag M, that means message. Say fix, logo, image, and hero, because that's all we really did. I commit that. So that means in the commit, this is what was changed, everything there. So now I say git push, and it push, the remote hung up unexpectedly. If you ever see that, you Google it. Well, there's a problem to the remote repository, and you'll find a solution. Run this. Git configuration, HTTP post buffer, change it. So fine, I'll do that. I paste that, and then I do git push again, and let's see if it worked. Perfect, there it is. So now it made those changes. Remember, public was 15 minutes ago. I'll refresh it now. So that sent our changes from our computer to GitHub, which now automatically triggers a new deploy on Netlify. Let me refresh this. And notice how here on Bolt, it automatically updated. We see all the new code. Pretty neat, right? So now if we go back here to Netlify, to deployments, look at this. Right away, there's a new push. Now, I had a problem a minute ago, which is why you're seeing the wrong commit message here. But every time you send a new commit to GitHub, GitHub will trigger this deployment on Netlify, and it'll update your website. So as soon as that's done building, we'll see it in just a minute. It's published. I can click this URL. Boom, there it is. We see our changes online. Next step would be I can come back here to site overview, and I can connect a domain. So I have the domain on here already. So I'll connect that, and we'll let that go. But now, as you see, we have the website online. It's deploying with Astro. Let's view the source. There it all is. Everything is there, all the HTML. It's not client-side everything. So in the next video, we are going to fix the images. We're going to import the rest of the data. We're going to connect Supabase as a backend, and we're going to get all that infrastructure done. For now, what you have here is an interface that more or less knows the structure of our data, so we can start really putting together the directory we've been dreaming of. So I hope this was helpful. We've covered making the PRD in the beginning and getting very creative and diverse with its perspective. Then we simplified the PRD just for our initial MVP. We brought it into Bolt, we built it, we debugged the build errors. Then we brought it to GitHub so we could deploy it to Netlify and bring it to our computer where we could make our own changes. And I think that's enough for one video. I'm already overwhelmed. And if you're learning how to do this, I'm sure you're feeling like you have enough to practice now. So in the next video, which will be part 4 in this series, we will bring the rest of the data, including the images, we'll connect it to Supabase, and we might even add some extra functionality like submission forms or like report a listing, maybe even admin dashboard. We're gonna see how long it takes. But I hope this gives you hope. Astro on Bolt. This is the way. And then bring it to Cursor to do everything else. I think this is a good flow here. You can try to build on Cursor as well, but hey, I've tried this 5 or 6 times, and this was the first time it worked. This is Bolt, okay? Props to Bolt. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Make sure to check out the Vi Builders Discord. We're in there talking about stuff, figuring out how to build, learning together. We're hanging out, and there are resources down there to get started with the command line. And I wish you all the best in your build. Good luck. Godspeed, Spider-Man.